Alright, so in the last video we were working with our push button to get it to work the code behind as opposed to just completing a circuit. We want to actually have the code and our input output pins actually doing the work for us. So that was great, that worked fine. So today we're going to add something called loops. So we are going to add a loop to our code to make things go a little faster, code things a little bit faster, but also there's some things that we can do with loops that we couldn't do just by typing the same command over and over again. So basically, a loop takes a series of commands and just repeats them. That's all it does, and we can have it just repeat no matter what. We can have it repeat based on a condition, and we can have it. So there's two types of conditional loops, and sort of one main type of repetitive loop where we can just program in the number of times we want it to loop. So we're going to go through all of them today and talk about sort of the uses, where you would use each one. So the first one we're going to look at is called a for loop. So a for loop is it's a nice loop because it's a really good loop to use when you know exactly how many times you want it to loop, and that's the only thing you're worried about, is I want this to loop 5 times. So this is my LED flashing code. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to add a delay here. I think that's sort of part of the problem here. So I am going to I want this to loop a bunch of times. Actually, no, I'm going to make these 100 so it doesn't take so long to flash. Alright, so you can copy my, you should have the, what's going on here? You should have this all wiring from last time, and so now we're gonna take this code and we're gonna loop it, say 5 times. So the first thing we're gonna do, so I'm gonna type it out first, and then I'll explain what all the parts mean, because it is a little bit confusing at first, but not so much when we get used to it. Pretty soon this will be second nature. Let's say 10. Now you're probably like, what is he typing here? But every little bit makes a lot of sense. So this is how we structure a for loop. So this is my loop here. So remember, it's in the if statement, that's fine. So in my for loop, and it's called a for loop because it's for this many times. So the way we structure it is, so we put the word for and then a space, and then in this bracket, this is the structure of the loop. So we're creating an integer just like how you did up here. So the for loop creates an integer called I, and it sets the value to 0. So that's important because we have to this is sort of where we're starting our count from. So it starts at 0, and then every time it loops, it's going to check the value of I, and it's going to see, okay, the value of I is 0. Then the next one is the conditional. So it's going to say, okay, is I less than or equal to 10? Okay, right now, is 0 less than or equal to 10? Yes, 0 is less than 10. And so it's going to run the loop once. At the end of the loop, it's going to then take I, and what the plus plus means is it means it's adding 1 to I. So it's just taking I plus 1, basically. It's incrementing it by 1. So the next time it loops, I is no longer worth 0 because it's been incremented. It is now worth 1. It now has the value of 1. Is 1 less than or equal to 10? Yep. So it's still going to run the loop, and then it's going to increment it. Next time it's worth 2, and then 3, and then 4, and then 5, until it is I is equal. So even if I is equal to 10, meaning it's the 10th time, it'll still run the loop, and then it'll increment it by 1. But now I is equal to 11. Okay? Now the next time it runs the loop, it says, oh, is I less than or equal to 10? It's 11. Nope. It's going to then go from here to the outer part of the loop. So it's going to stop the loop and kick off to the next one. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our code and we're going to cut it and paste it into here. And you can see with this structure, the nice thing about it is that I can add increments very, very easily. So right now it's going to loop 10 times. So let's, you know what, let's make it once here. So it should loop twice. So let's make it 0. It should loop once. Oh. What are my errors here? What did I forget here? Oh, I forgot my semicolon. That's right, I forgot my semicolon there. Shame on me. Start simulation. There we go. So now it's nothing's going to happen until I hit that button. Like from my last video. So I'm going to hit that. There, now it's flashing. And it only did it once. Okay, so it flashed it once. So now I want to change this. Let's do it 5 times. Okay. So see, I just changed the I is less than or equal to 5. Oh, see, now it's flashing a lot. There we go, 5 times. Now we go, let's make it 25 times. Start simulation, and I'm going to click the button, and now it goes for a lot longer, as you can see. Okay, so that is how you do a for loop. Okay, so that's one of the 3 loops that we're going to learn about today. The next one we're going to do, there's 2 that are very similar, and they have a very subtle difference, but a very important difference. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of my for loop. Here. So we're going to use a different type of loop. So this one's called a while loop. Okay. So while. Okay. So this is called a while loop. So again, it's the same structure. I have while. Now all it's looking for is this true? Is this equation true? At this point, take a look at this. Is this true? Does 1 equal 1? Yes, it does. So this will always run. This is what we call an infinite loop. You might have heard that before. So this is a loop that will never end. So if I were to copy and paste this, what's going to happen is when I hit that button, the lights will just flash forever until I turn the program off. So because this is never not true, 1 is always equal to 1. It'll just loop in there forever, and it's like a whirlpool. Nothing can get out of it. So that's not a very good way to program unless there's something. I mean, void loop, in a sense, is an infinite loop. So this will just loop all over the place. But this kind of blocks everything else in your code. So we want to get rid of that. So what we want to do is we want to say while we can say button state. You know what, we can actually use this to do our decision making too. So what we can do is, let's get rid of that. So we can say we can have it while I'm holding the button. So as long as I'm holding the button, it'll run through this. Okay, so if I equals 1. Okay, so now this loop here, as long as the button state is equal to 1, meaning I'm holding the button, it'll run through this. So if I click and I hold, it'll just flash forever. As soon as I let it go, it'll do its last loop. Oh. Yeah, so I haven't actually turned anything off, so that's why it's doing that.
So that's the while loop. Now what the difference between this one and the next one I'm going to show you. So notice how this one it'll check the condition, okay, before it runs the code. So there's a chance that this will never run, okay? So if for example, if I click start simulation, it's not running what's in here because this is now false. So it'll never run this unless I push the button. That works, but there's some instances where we want it to do something first and then check. An example of that would be a robot. So imagine you have a robot that needs to move and to check and see if it's hitting a wall. Okay, so if you want the robot to move forward while he's not hitting the wall, okay, the robot needs to move forward first, right? So if you're always checking, are you hitting the wall without actually moving anywhere, then you'll never move anywhere. So you want the robot to move first and then check to see if he's hitting the wall. So this is called a do-while loop. So it differs a little bit in that we take this, okay, and we'll just put that at the end, and up at the top we say do. Okay. So now what you'll notice is that when I start it, it'll actually run this first and then check. Oops, what is my errors here? Oh, looks like I am missing a semicolon again. Shame on me again. Alright, so let's run that. And then you see how it ran that in there. Okay, so now what I want to do, oops, yeah. So that's how the do while differs from the while loop. So we have the do is it'll do the stuff first and then check, and then the one it'll only run it if that is true. I would say 90% of the time you're going to be using the while loop, but there are that odd occasion when you need to use the do while loop. So those are 3 loops that you learned today: the for loop, the while loop, and the do while loop. Use them as you need them.